Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Budding Watch Enthusiast. So this video, we are going to be talking about Grail watches, or in a broader sense, why it is important to do long-term planning and to have like goal watches to get to. And this notion of like short, medium, and long-term goals for your watch collection is something that that's helped me out quite a bit in the short time. I've been doing this for about 6 months now. But it's helped me out quite a bit, and I have to give a lot of credit to Urban Gentry, to TGV for kind of introducing this concept to me. I'll actually go ahead and link his video down below where he talks about having, collection goals, and you guys can watch that as well. But I wanted to, like I said, talk about in a broad sense why, having long-term goals is helpful, I feel, in watch collecting, and also talk about the 2 Grail watches, the ones that I'm chasing and planning for the future. Before we do that though, quick wristwatch check. A somewhat ironic choice considering we're talking about Grail watches. This is about as anti-Grail as you can get. This is the Casio World Time, aka the Casio Royale. A very fun Casio digital watch. But not a Grail by any stretch of the imagination, because this can be had for like $35, and you could go buy it on Amazon right now, and you should, because this watch is a ton of fun. But like I said, we're talking about long-term planning today. The reason that I found it helpful to have long-term goals for my watch collection is because it gives you something to focus on. It gives you something to keep your eye on for down the road, and it can help curtail some spending habits, basically. So for me, like, having these 2 watches in the very far away horizon is, like I said, it helps kind of focus what I actually want in my watch collection. And it can help separate those watch crushes from actual watches that you want to purchase that you're going to enjoy. Because for me, the way that I do it is I have like a watch fund. I have a separate thing of money that I'll add to occasionally, or like if I sell something off that I don't need, be it a watch or anything really, because we tend to accumulate a lot of stuff over the course of our lives. But if I sell something I don't need and it's money that I don't need right away, then it'll go in the watch fund, and that'll build up and up and up. And when a new watch comes along, when I see a new watch, I'm like, ooh, like I think I might want this watch. And I do my research and I wait, because I never buy watches on impulse. But after researching it for a while, that'll really tell you whether or not you want the watch. Because if you go into the watch fund to get the money to buy this, more affordable watch, you are setting yourself back from your Grail. So you have to decide, is this watch worth, kind of docking my Grail fund and setting myself back a little bit there, or would I rather have the money in there and work towards the Grail piece? That's that's been very helpful for me. In kind of like, there's been a lot of watches that have come up that I've kind of crushed on, but I've said, it's not worth me, setting myself back working towards these other watches, because I'd rather have these other watches than this, other watch that's like a fleeting, momentary thing. So it can help you be more disciplined in your spending, which is always good, especially when you're first starting out. Like, you see all these watches and you're just like, oh man, there's so many things that I want. Well, do you really want it? And using your Grails as a comparison can help you sort that out. The other reason I find it helpful is because it you can use that to sort of inform your tastes. Because if you have these luxury watches that you plan on getting down the road, you can look at the aspects of them, you can look at their style, their design, you can look at things about them, and you can apply that towards other watches that you buy. So, there's other watches out there, and I'll do episodes on this later on, where I take a Grail watch of mine and then look at other more affordable alternatives to that Grail watch. But you can certainly, come across other watches you may not have noticed before, or just you have a general sense of what you like by using your Grails as kind of like a reference point. Because again, for most people, your Grail is something you're not going to be able to attain or achieve for possibly several years, and you might come through a lot of other watches in between now and then. So what is a Grail? What is a Grail watch? I mean, it's the definition is going to be slightly different for everybody. For some people, it is a unattainable watch. It's like an impossible watch that is incredibly difficult to attain because of price or because of availability. And some people use those as their grails. Some people just use massively expensive watches as their grails. For me personally, a grail watch is that term, and like a long-term goal. Those terms are sort of interchangeable for me. Grail watch is one that I can't run out and buy right away. It's a watch that I'm going to have to save up for over a prolonged period of time. But when I do get that watch, it's going to be very special because, I worked towards it. I was disciplined to be able to wait for it. You sell a redundant watch in your collection to help raise funds for that eventually you will be able to attain. And like I said, the term Grail and like a long-term goal watch, those terms are sort of interchangeable for me. I'm a little bit more practical. It doesn't benefit me to be like, oh, like a Patek Nautilus is my Grail and it costs $50,000. Because I'm not probably going to ever be able to afford that watch. Nor is it something like, that I'm actually putting in my view as something that I can get. So for me, like a Grail watch, it has to be something that is attainable. It has to be something that, I can get eventually after saving up for a while. Your definition might be different. That's okay. This is how I'm looking at it. So I have only two watches on my Grail list because, again, I am practical and it doesn't really benefit me to have 8 watches to be like, oh, I like this and this and this. There's 2 watches that are on my list. One of them is significantly more attainable at this point in time than the other one is, but even the other one is not like impossible by any stretch of the imagination. It's just going to take some hard work. The first one is going to be a Tudor Black Bay 41. And to me, Tudor is it's a brand that I didn't know anything about before I started looking into collecting. Of course, I knew, Rolex and Omega and stuff like that, but I didn't know about Tudor. And when I went into collecting, my ultimate watch was a Rolex Sub because I'm a huge James Bond fan, and that was James Bond's watch, and the Submariners had more appeal to me than Omega Seamasters do. So I'm like, yeah, the Sub, that's the one for me. And then as I started researching watches and finding out more about them, there are other Rolex watches that I find much more desirable. We'll talk about one in a little bit. But then I found out about Tudor, which of course is a sister brand to Rolex. And I found out about the Black Bay collection. And to me, the Black Bay is a significantly more desirable watch in my eyes. And that's just because I think it looks a little bit more neat, more unique. And a part of that's because like the Rolex Sub is like the standard for dive watches. Like that is the quintessential dive watch. It's the one that everybody wants and that everybody has, and that's very popular. But Tudor takes, a lot of design cues. Of course they do, because they are, of the same company essentially. But for whatever reason, the Black Bay collection stands out more in my eyes than the Submariner does. And I don't know if it's because of the colors that are used on the bezel. I don't know if it's because of the design of the dial, the snowflake hand maybe, I'm not sure. But to me, like, the Black Bay is not the ultimate dive watch, but I would be pretty happy if a Black Bay was the only dive watch that I owned. Now, originally, that was going to be the Black Bay 41 in red, because I love that deep dark red. But then Baselworld came along, and Tudor rolled out the GMT, which at first didn't really pique my interest because the Rolex style GMT is not my favorite. I've always found the colors on the bezel to be a little too in your face. But the Tudor one, of course, the colors are a little bit more muted. They're a little bit more, I don't want to say washed out, but they're not quite as bold, and I really like it, and it's been really growing on me for the past couple weeks as I've been looking at it and checking it out. So now I don't know whether I want the GMT or whether I want the Black Bay Red. Of course, the Black Bay Red will be probably significantly more affordable as it's a little bit more common of a design. And the GMT is going to be highly desirable when it comes out. Fortunately, it's not a decision I have to worry about anytime soon because, again, it's not something I'm going to be getting probably this year or maybe even next year as well, just because I have a ways to go before I get to that point. But I do know that I want a Tudor Black Bay in my collection. I think for me, that is going to be the perfect dive watch to own. And yeah, I'm looking forward to working towards that. That's what I'm kind of working towards right now as my long-term goal. So I just have to figure out which one I want, and then we can go from there. So the second one, and this is again a very common pick, but that is a Rolex Explorer, which to me, it's just kind of perfect, you know? I mean, like, it's a basic watch, it's a three-hander, but it's just something about the marriage of this, like, distinctive style, this distinctive design, but it's still a tough watch, still a rugged watch. It's like the perfect everyday wear because it's, you know, just black and silver on the dial. It goes with everything. There's not a single thing you could wear that it wouldn't go with. You can even pair it with a suit if you want to, because it's not this big, bulky diving watch. It just, something about the numerals, the way that they're designed, and yeah, it's just, like, for me, that's it. Like, it's just the Explorer. When I first saw it, I completely forgot about the sub, and I was just like, man, I was like, the Explorer is the Rolex that I would want, that's for sure. Now, the Explorer 2 is a little too bold for my liking. It's a little too out there for what I'm looking for from that watch. The Explorer 1, though, just to me, quintessential classic watch. It's just something about it, and so I know for me that is the one that I want to focus on for the way long term. Now again, the Explorer, that's something that I'm not going to own for years and years and years and years, unless I, you know, fall into a pile of money, which I don't anticipate happening anytime soon. But yeah, that's the one that I want to work towards. That's the one that I want to eventually have. And look, like, I think I'd be perfectly happy if that's the only Rolex that I ever own. And the good news is, fortunately, I picked a watch that is of their more affordable offerings. Hopefully they don't, like, skyrocket for some reason like the Submariners did. But yeah, Rolex Explorer, yeah, to me it's perfection. So yeah, those are my two Grail watches. Those are my long-term plans, the ones that I'll be working towards, you know, for the future. I'd be curious to know what you guys are looking forward to down the road as well in terms of your watches, your Grail watches, your long-term plan watches. So do me a favor and let me know in the comments down there, what is your Grail? What are the watches that you plan on working towards as a long-term goal? Thank you guys very much for watching this. If you found this entertaining or informative, hit that like button for me if you could. Also, if you're new to this channel, if you haven't subscribed yet, it helps me out quite a bit if you do, so click that red subscribe button and also hit the bell icon. That way you can be notified whenever I post a new video. I thank you guys very much again for watching, and I will see you next time.